And
Oh,
we're
that's
live. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thrive on a Tuesday. A little bit different. And I am joined today by my guest host, Bonnie. So, Bonnie, how about
nice.
you let everybody know? Actually, I should probably do this. I am Rachelle Both, and so welcome to everybody. And now I'm going to turn over to Bonnie to introduce herself.
Great. I am Bonnie Nieves. I'm a high school teacher, author of Beyond Purpose, and you can see my Twitter and my Instagram there. And that's about it. Just having fun, doing my thing, teaching my kids, and hanging out with Rochelle.
Yeah, and get to see you soon, right?
Oh,
No,
yes,
uh,
FETC.
I know. And so, for anybody who is joining in, I would love to know if you are headed to FETC next week in Orlando. Drop it in the comments. Be awesome to see each other in person, or
Oh,
if you have some sessions to support you and join in if we can. So definitely let us know if you happen to plan on being there. There is one other thing that I am going to share before bringing up our guest, and that is the Muncie Challenge. So, for anybody who doesn't know what Muncie is, it is a multimedia creation tool. It is awesome. It's great for taking a break, for self care, for you, and for everybody. You can even make awesome greeting cards for your friends and family. But there's a challenge going on this week that I am doing each day. There's a different type of template that's available. All you have to do is create one, tag me, tag Muncie, put it out there on Twitter. And at the end of the week, you might be one of the 5 to win a copy of my book, Unconventional Ways to Thrive in EDU. So I am going to say to Bonnie, I hope to see that you will join in that Muncie challenge. But there's no
oh,
pressure.
no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure at all. So today we have a great guest. And I don't know if Bonnie, you want to introduce our guest, or if you want me to introduce our guest. Totally leave it up to you.
I'll let you do it.
All right.
You know,
So da, 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 pretend like we have a drum roll. Yay. And for anybody who has been watching with us for a long time, you know that we have had Dawn on our show a couple of times, sometimes just Dawn, and sometimes there's a group of us, celebrating the holiday season or something and having a lot of fun. So, Dawn, if you wouldn't mind, I would love if you would introduce yourself to everybody who's watching.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be with you guys again. This is always one of my most favorite places to be, just connecting with educators and you guys. Always such a fun time. And I love the parties. They are always a blast. So I'm glad to be part of that. I'm Dawn Harris. I'm a high school educator in Southwest Ohio. I'm also author of Plan Like a Pirate, the new book that was just released from DBC a couple of months ago. I do a lot of consulting work with schools across the country, helping them to build out diversity, equity, inclusion committees within their school communities, work with teachers on anti-racism education training. I am a co-moderator of the Lead Like a Pirate chat on Saturday mornings on Twitter. And geez, just about everything else I can get myself into. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm taking college classes again. I don't know what I'm doing to myself. Just constant self-sabotage, but I
Oh
love
my gosh.
it.
Yeah, but I find that, and I'm sure Bonnie can agree too, but I just find like everybody is so busy. We always say like all the things, our time, it's just constantly filled up. You're probably asked like I am, like, do you ever sleep? And I've really been trying to think about like, why is it like this? I've always been the kind of person to keep myself busy. And I think, and I came to this conclusion the other day, whether or not I'm right or not, but I feel like part of it seems like it has increased like this, that we're so much busier ever since now almost 2 years ago when the pandemic started. And I almost wonder if when that happened and we couldn't go different, and I might have been talking about this on Friday too, whenever we were on live, but we couldn't travel, we couldn't go to conferences, we couldn't do a lot of the normal things with our family, with our friends. And so we filled our time in other ways. And for many people, including myself, that meant taking classes or doing some writing or getting involved in a Twitter chat or, a variety of things that we didn't have time for before, but because we found ourselves like not able to do those traveling things or those in-person things we were used to, we filled our filled up everything on our calendar. And so then once things eased up, then now we're like, okay, wait, I'm still doing this other thing, but I added on all of these other things. So now I'm doing all the things, and it's hard to take anything away. So that's just my theory that I came up with really fast the other day. And I don't know what you or Bonnie think about that, but in my mind, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with you on that. And I also think about, since the pandemic, this virtual life that we've all created for ourselves, and meaning we have friends and connections and responsibilities and roles virtually now that we never had before. We were all on social media, and we were tweeting and posting on Facebook and Instagram and all those places that we spent our time. But because those outlets changed in terms of their purpose and the ways in which we use them, we kind of built these other places and spaces where we chose to start existing and learning and growing and connecting with other people. And I think we don't want to let go of that. I don't. The people who I have connected with virtually are now a huge part of my life, and making time for those folks and to be able to spend time in those places is really important. And just like you said, we've got to get it in the schedule somewhere. So
Some days I just don't know where. How about you, Bonnie? How are you feeling? Because you're involved in so many things too. I mean, one, playing Word Feud with me.
Oh, and now Wordle every morning. I don't even know how I'm going to balance all those.
But do you notice that, like, going back 2 years ago until now, that you have a lot more on your plate?
No. Isn't that funny? I feel like I'm one of the few people, but that is because my plate has always been so full. And like even before all of this COVID started, I was doing Zoom calls 3 nights a week because I was doing textbook reviews for years. So it just kind of, everything just rolled into my world anyway. I'm like, oh, everybody's Zooming now. This is fantastic. Because I've been doing this thinking there was like this one group of people I could Zoom with. And now everyone does it. So that part is really neat. But
Yeah.
well, and actually my book came out in the middle. So that's one less thing I had to do. So of course that immediately filled up with something else to do. But it's not, I don't know. I don't feel any busier than I used to. I'm just happy other people feel that busy now too.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Rachelle, I
Yeah.
don't know how you could possibly be any busier than you were.
Yeah, but I am though. Like, it's unbelievable. Somebody had said to me, "Oh, things probably slowed down for you a little bit." And I go, "Actually, you know how I was doing, these things?" They're like, "Yeah." And I said, "Multiply that by like 2 right now." I'm like, "What? Like, how is that even possible?" I said, "Well, I don't know that it's possible yet because I don't know that I'm actually like doing everything." But today I noticed that I had so many things in my mind and everything that I was like, I feel like I'm not getting everything done that I need to, and I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything. And you have to be selective about what you do and the planning, and I don't know. It's not easy, but I like to stay busy. I like to stay involved, and it's hard to say no to things sometimes. So, especially like writing and sharing ideas, which gives me a nice segue into talk about. I'm going to put this up on the larger too so we can actually see it, because Dawn, you do a lot of writing and speaking and sharing and everything. And you have your book that is now out, Plan Like a Pirate. So for anybody that wants to get a copy, there's how you can get it. I check it out on Amazon. But what can you tell us about, like, what was your inspiration behind writing it? What was the process like? Was it stressful? And where did you find the time to write?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, I mean, like a lot of people, I had been thinking about writing a book for a long time. And then when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, it wasn't that I found myself with more time. I just found myself with the kind of, I don't know, the will to get it done. I think, like I said, if I'm going to do this, this is the time to do it now. And Plan Like a Pirate actually started out as really just this little, it was like maybe 60 or 70 pages of, I was like, oh, this is just like kind of a little guide, like my, day to day in the classroom. And, I shared a snippet of it with Shelley Burgess. And from there, she was like, okay, just let's build this out. And I was like, all right, great. Now, what does that mean? So, the process, Rachelle and Bonnie, both of you. And so from there, it just started to grow, and it grew into what it is now, which is, I think I guess you could call it a manifesto of sorts, but also I think it's just a snapshot of how I take steps every day to put together just brick by brick, piece by piece, learning for students so that every student feels like in their classroom the learning was tailored for them. We talk a lot about differentiation and using assessment to determine student needs and where we need to identify areas for student growth. All those things are still a part of everything that I do. But in Plan Like a Pirate, I just really try to take time to show educators, like, if we're the slightest bit intentional about designing learning for students, we really can make it a unique opportunity for every student. So a good chunk of the book really deals with that. What are those parts and pieces? What is the framework like that I use every day? The essential 8 is in there, really just focusing on their 8 elements that every day go into planning for me. And yes, they go into the big overarching unit kind of planning and the larger scale planning, but the things that kids need to interact with every day, making sure that each day students have a chance to construct written responses, that we're using technology purposefully, that I'm giving students feedback every day, that we're talking about concepts and big ideas and not just skills. And so those parts and pieces, the working parts and pieces of what we do in every class every day, that can be tailored, that can be made relevant to every student's life, is a big chunk of the book. And so once readers get through that piece, then the focus starts to shift on that professional growth piece. And how do we as educators prepare for the evaluation process? What does that look like? Look at that beautiful thing there. It's like, hey, Mom. I love it.
Never fails.
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist. That was just too sweet. But professional growth has got to be part of that process. Once we have worked through designing learning for students, then we need to be reflective as educators and look at what we've done and be able to take that and showcase it, for the evaluation piece. But then more importantly, towards the end of the book, is how do we take what we've learned? It's kind of like what we're doing right here. How do we take what we've learned and go out and share it with others? We need, as educators, we have this responsibility that we learn something new or something goes really well in the classroom. We have to share it, right? So we all become better through the work of each other. And so I love that part of the book, is really like, how as educators do we take what we know to continue to grow ourselves in this profession that we're in, and help others to become better as a result of it. It's why the 3 of us write. It's why the 3 of us are on the show. It's why the 3 of us are active on social media and involved in the groups that we're in. And I just want to encourage every educator to be part of that, because it has really been life-changing for me, and more importantly for my kids in my classroom, right? They grow because we grow.
Right. I have maybe it's not a stumper, but it's something you might have to think about, or not. So what I picked up on as I was reading your book, and I took a couple of, well, we'll say almost direct quotes from it, but there are things that really stood out to me as like a whole mindset that you have. So my question is going to be, how did you come to have this mindset? But let me pull out these quotes that exemplify it. I was determined I was going to love coming to school every day. And I'll skip one and make it a little easier. The next one is invite students to participate, right? So the wording of that is so different and intentional and meaningful. So I'm wondering if there was a process or a group or something that you read that really helped you flip your mindset from what it may probably have been when you started teaching to what it currently is now?
Yeah, I love that question.
Mhm.
The first thing you mentioned there was like I was determined I was going to love coming to work every day. What readers discover in the book is that before education, I spent many years in the private sector, in marketing and publishing, and that work to me was, I won't say that it was fulfilling. It was a great job, and I was very successful at that, but I wasn't feeling like when I was doing that work that I was really making an impact. I was doing a job, right? And so some things happened in my career that, the company that I was working for ended up, having some big transitions take place. And my team and I, left the company. And I was like, what am I going to do now? Am I going to go back to this field that I could go right back into it and do that same work again, or I could do something that maybe I'm a little more passionate about, where I feel like I'm making an impact. And sometimes it was hard to go into that job. I say that, a job, right? Now I am living out my dream profession every day. I love my work. I love my kids. I love my peers. I love, everything about what I do. But going into this career, I was like, I'm not going to go into a place and not enjoy it, right? And so we have to be very intentional about that, especially now. Some of my peers and I are having these conversations about, even cultivating belonging right now and feeling comfortable going into a building during COVID when, the culture just isn't what it normally is. And we have to make those decisions ourselves to be determined about what's it going to be like when we go in each day. We can set the tone for our own day, and as far as inviting kids into learning, it's simply that, right? Our kids, they have a choice whether we like it or not to engage in learning. And so when I say extend an invitation to kids into learning, you're making it so enticing that they want to be there. They want to be engaged. And we do that through understanding who our kids are, understanding their needs for learning, where they are in the process of growth, and giving them access to content and skills-based learning that they feel like they can't go without, right? So the invitation can't really be turned down, right? They don't want to. They want to be there. They want to be engaged. And that's where that deliberate and very intentional lesson planning comes into place.
And I love hearing the word intentional, which has been like my one word for like 3 years running, but it's something that I talk about a lot. And listening to you talk about the writing process and just the reasons behind it. Yesterday I had a conference. I actually had professional development day at school, but there was also a conference in Pittsburgh, and they did this authors roundtable, and there were, I think, 7 of us. 2 were co-authors, and everybody was just sharing, their experiences and why they wrote the book and the purpose behind it, and where they got the inspiration from and all of that. And I feel like, and I don't know if either one of you feel like this too, but every time that I tell the story about like why I wrote a book or multiple, like whatever the writing is that I do, I realize that there's another like reason behind it, or there's a motivation behind it that I wasn't necessarily aware of until like now that I go back and I think like, oh yeah, like I forgot about that. And like how interesting it is that it fits into, what has become a blog or a book or a podcast or whatever. There's all these little chunks of things that develop us, I guess, along the way, and you don't realize it. But all weaving through the importance and power of relationships along that time too. So when I hear you, I kept hearing the word intentional, and I noticed that right away. And you're right, like we have to be intentional about creating opportunities for students and building relationships with students and finding out like what they like, what they don't like, and how to engage them in learning. And I was admitting so much like, yep, I didn't know what student engagement yet meant. And oh yeah, I didn't really know what project-based learning was. And the importance of asking students for their feedback. And sometimes like you don't even have to ask. They just straight up tell you like, yeah, I don't really like this, or this is like the worst idea ever. But I value that. And I think that when one, there's a right way to say things to somebody, to give that feedback. But on the other side of it, I had a kid say the other day, what were you doing in class today? And I started to tell him, and he says, oh, never mind, I don't care. And I just laughed. I went, why did you ask then? He said, well, I'm just being honest. I said, and you know what? I do appreciate that. I said, sometimes maybe you could like sugarcoat it a little bit, but I feel like the more that they feel comfortable and supported, and we put those things in place for them to, build relationships and to be part of the process and all of those things, that it definitely does better in the long run, but they feel more comfortable like coming to us and giving us the feedback that we need. And so whenever, going back to what you said, when we grow, they grow. I think it's also the other too, like when they grow, we grow, right? Because we learn like different things, from our students. So anyway, and I just have to say apologies for the guest that showed up, mystery guest. But anyway, I'll stop with that.
You bring up a great point. No, it's true. I can't tell you how many times I've had my kids be like, "Oh God, we're not doing that again," or "Oh please, can we not do this?" or "Can can we change this?" I've had students take projects, and I'm like, "All right, what do we need to do?" And they've completely revamped them, and it's been 10 times better than anything that I could have come up with. And as educators, we cannot discount the input of our students when it comes to learning. They really do know what's best for them, right? We can look at the data and we can determine where we need to focus our efforts in terms of designing learning for them. But ultimately, they know how they're best going to learn. And, we can tap into what we know as educators, but I think it's important to let them tell us too what's working for them.
Mm-hmm. And kind of another segue over, and I don't know if this is as good of one as the prior one, but the other part of it, because we're talking about relationships and, we're all connected in these spaces and we're sharing what we're doing. But you talk a lot about like finding your people. And so what does that mean? Like, what does that look like? And why does it matter? It's like a lot of questions there.
No, it's okay. I love it. I was so excited to write this piece for your book, Rachelle. This was, I can't tell you how transformational it has been in my life, finding people in my profession, in this career who I have become connected to that have really changed me as a person, as an educator, and what I have discovered that I'm capable of in the classroom. And, I don't want to give the whole story away in the book, but it goes all the way back to when I was in my college program for education, and I was looking at other professors, leaders around me, and looking at what they've accomplished, and thinking, how did you do that, and how did you get where you are, and immediately I just started thinking about my future in education. And I wasn't even in the classroom yet. I don't even think it's maybe just started student teaching. And like, where did I see myself 10 years from now? And it's been 10 years. And I'm looking back to where I was and to where I am now. And it's all because of the people that I have surrounded myself with, whether it's connections that I've made that have been, said, hey, there's an opportunity here, or, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to do this with me? Or I've taken somebody's class, or, read their book. And it is, it just goes without saying that, we cannot say enough about how important the people we surround ourselves with are. They can lift us up or they can bring us down. And, I think we've all been in those situations where we've had folks who do both. And for me, it's all about finding the people who, we're going to be able to lift one another together, and we're all going to rise to whatever occasion it is, and just focus on being great and being the best that we can be, not just for our kids, but for ourselves too.
Yeah. Agreed. And Bonnie, I feel like I cut you off before, so I am going to put on my listening lips, like Mel always says.
No, you didn't cut me off at all. But I do have something to say now. I didn't have anything to say before, but I do have something to say now. And it's to do with finding people. And for myself, when I first joined Twitter, there were, it's not unique, right? There were a few people, and I started because I was talking to the people who agreed with me. And then someone would chime in that was disagreeing, and I would immediately go, how dare you disagree with me? Like, what? I'm right. But then the more involved I got, the more I thought there are so many sides to a story. So the more people you talk to, the more facets of a story you see. And it's really funny how, like, just recently I've seen myself challenging people the way people used to challenge me, just to think a little bit differently, and try to see other people's perspectives, even when you think you are. Be open-minded enough to realize that you may not be. I don't know if that that's probably not very clear, but there are lots of times where I think I'm doing something really great, and then someone will say, well, it would be better if you do this. And like, yeah, you're darn right. It would be better if I did that. And I learned a lot, especially around equity and diversity in the last year. I really focused on that. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Yeah. PLNs are great for pushing you and making you think differently, for sure.
Yeah, they really are. I agree. And you're right, surrounding the DEI work and the anti-racism education work. But I also think, with social media, it's a really interesting dynamic when we think about the ways in which we connect. Twitter, we're really limited, right? With the number of even characters that we have, we've got to be very succinct and delicate and all those things at the same time when we're communicating with one another. So we have to be very selective in what we say and how we say it. And I know I hear a lot of people say, oh, I hate Twitter. It's so negative. And I'm like, where are you? Because that's not my existence in that space. But also, I take great care with who I do surround myself with. I do want people who are going to hold me accountable and put me in check when it's time to do so. But I think when we're with the right people, we are very choosy about those folks that we want to have in our circle, regardless of how small or wide it is. I think we have learned in certain spaces, because we're using that term PLN, our professional learning network, or our PLF, our professional learning family, I guess, as I like to refer to mine sometimes, is we know how to communicate with one another. And I think that's what's really important about being able to hold one another accountable in a very public space. And sometimes in a very positive way, even when the situation can be very delicate. And sometimes adults can't do that face to face, right? We can't have those conversations with the person across the hall or down the street or, around the corner or whatever when it's face to face. But it's been really great having people to connect with and learn from in a social and public setting. And to be able to call many of those people good friends after, all of this. So,
yeah. Isn't that amazing though? Like, there are people that we get to talk to more that aren't in our same physical space, or that we see more often, even in person, even in the past 2 years. Just like some of my friends, like Jamie Donnelly, for example, like I would see her more in person than friends that live in the same town that I live in. Not so much because I haven't seen her in 2 years, but looking forward to FETC to see her in many others. But it's important to have a space, whatever that space is, to connect in. And that's one thing that I did not do for years. I kept to myself. And I think about not just what it held me back from, but more importantly, what did I hold my students back from? And so can't do anything other than being intentional about finding opportunities and putting myself out there and in writing or whatever it is, talking to myself on my podcast, if that's the case, but just sharing experiences. Because even, when people feel like, well, I don't know what I would write about, or I don't know what I would do a podcast about, or like, it's just what you're doing. And even if it's one person that hears it and listens, it might just be that person that needed it and totally turns them around. Because that has happened to me a few times in the last couple of years, where some people just said, you know what, I'm not fit for education. I don't belong. And they had all these reasons. And I gave them, actually, Dave Burgess, I had decided in my mind I was going to Teach Like a Pirate for this one person in particular. And I messaged Dave and I said, hey, and I explained what was going on. I said, I would really like to get a signed copy from you. Just let me know where to buy it, how to do that. And like, he was having nothing with it. Like, that he just signed it and he sent a nice message directly to this person. And it made a huge difference to read it and to just, connect and see the power of like all those connections out there. So you just have to reach out and ask for help. It's hard to do sometimes because it makes you vulnerable. But as we all know, there is tremendous strength in vulnerability. So
as painful as it is, right?
It is. Yeah, it is. It totally is. But we have to do it. Hey, we got a Facebook user. Yay. I was hoping we'd have Facebook user join in. So we've been talking for a while, and we can, keep on talking about this, or we can take a couple of minutes and do a little bit of like fun would you rather. It's totally up to both of you.
I'm
Don't
good with
threaten me with a good time.
You what? What'd you say, Bonnie?
I said, don't threaten me with a good time.
All right. Well, then I don't want to be, I don't want to go against what you say. Then we're going to do a couple of would you rather questions. So for those of you that are watching us live, or if you catch the recording and the replay, you can still join in because we will respond to you. We'll love to see your answers. I can't make any guarantees about the types of questions that these will be because they're usually kind of interesting. So I will throw the first one out there to whoever wants to answer first. Would you rather live with a barnyard of animals in your house or live in the barn with the animals? I kind of feel like I already live with a barnyard of animals in my house. So,
well, I feel like if I had the animals in my house, I could put them in one room and confine them to a space, and I would have a bathroom. So I think I'd be all right with that. I'd rather that than live in the barn with them.
okay.
I kind of agree with Bonnie, but then I'm thinking like, what animals and how many? Are they large? Are they small? I could always like hop up in the loft in the barn and get I guess get a nice, I don't know, nap on the hay.
And like, how big is the barn? Like,
Right.
is it bigger than my house?
That's what I'm thinking. I have a big barn and the animals are down and I'm up away from them. I just don't want to be cleaning that mess up in my house.
Yeah. That's
I didn't hear any stipulation about a housekeeper, so I'm definitely hiring someone to clean that mess up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, next question. Would you rather eat fast food every day or never eat at a restaurant again?
Mm.
Ooh, that's easy. Never a restaurant again.
Oh,
Never.
Wow. I don't think I could
I
do
would
it.
be fine.
I would just go without the fast food forever. Like I couldn't eat fast food every day. Couldn't do it. I just have to eat at home all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I could eat it every day, but I do enjoy going to restaurants. So, especially outdoors, like when the weather's nice, not when it's like a foot of snow outside. Okay, next question. Would you rather have to be the person, and you might already be the person, that cooks the big holiday meal every year, or be the person that has to do the cleanup? So are you the cooker or the cleaner?
I'm the cooker. My sister's the cleaner, without a doubt. I do all the cooking and she's doing the cleaning. I help her a little bit, but I'm always like, it's okay. I'll dry, maybe watch the kids. I cook the meal. She cleans.
All right.
Yeah, I'm the cooker too. So easy. Just throw it in the oven.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah. I like cooking, but for Thanksgiving I cook, but I also I have a dishwasher, but I also like hand washing the dishes. I don't know. It reminds me of when I was a kid, or it's just relaxing. Everybody thinks that that's just the strangest thing, but I don't know. I'm like, I just wash the dishes. Like, why not? I could do this. I could still talk. So I'm kind of in the middle on those ones. Okay, I'll ask you 3 more questions.
Okay.
So would you rather have to walk around and either A, wear a clown nose for the rest of your life, or have your face painted like a clown for the rest of your life? Told you these are random.
Oh, my goodness. I think the clown nose. I could deal with that.
Yeah.
No, that would drive me crazy seeing it. I'd have to do the paint. I mean,
Right.
you always see it when you look in the mirror, and I'm like, who cares what everybody else thinks? I'm going with the.
That is a good answer.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I if I could change the color of the nose, color coordinate. No, kidding. I don't know what I would do. I kind of think the makeup might be kind of fun because, mix it up. It doesn't say how much of the makeup you would have to wear. So I don't know about that one.
And the nose would really impact the mask wearing. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's true too. Okay, 2 more. First one, would you rather get to travel to every continent or only get to go to one place every year for the rest of your life? That's almost, yeah.
Ooh. So get to go to every continent
Uh-huh.
or only one place every year for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love to travel. I'd want to go to every continent.
Yeah.
I want to see it all.
I know.
Well, I'm trying to see what the upside of that
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
place a year is. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I'm really in love with it. Really in love with it.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool to go to the different continents, but I know there is a place out there that I would not mind going every year, which everybody knows where that is, so I won't even mention it by name. Okay, last one. This one's kind of funny. So let's say cars, apparently, all forms of typical transportation for commuting to work are not available. And your two choices are a hot air balloon or, I just lost it, or a helicopter. Hot air balloon or helicopter.
Is there a neither option? Like what? Yeah, I don't like either.
I know. I'll take the helicopter because at least they crash fast. Imagine a hot air balloon, how slow that crashes. You have so much time to think about it. I can't. The helicopter.
Oh my gosh. That's your answer for that? Like, why the helicopter? Oh, let's see here. So Monica chose the house instead of the barn. And then she said she would never go out to a restaurant again. And she's the cleaner. Thanks, Monica, for joining us in. Yay. It depends. Like the hot air balloon would be kind of cool. But like one of the things on my list of things I would like to do would be to ride in a helicopter. I also feel like given different weather situations that the helicopter would provide better. I mean, there's hot air, but the rest of the elements, you would be enclosed in a helicopter. But I don't know about the noise. Like that noise might be a little bit too much going to work. So anyway, thank you to everybody who has joined in. And thank you, Dawn, for joining us today. Any last words that you want to share with anybody about anything that's coming up that you're doing? I know you have, you're the co-moderator of the chat. So that's coming up on Saturday. Yep. And got your book out there. So anything else you want to share?
I have just a couple of different podcasts coming out soon. I'll be tweeting out about those. Some more, just talking about the book some more. Goodness, I don't know. Just follow me on Twitter. That's where pretty much I spend most of my time. I'm on Facebook a little, but really anything that's going on, I'll be sharing on Twitter. So hit me up at THRIVEinEDU and check out my website, educationundone.com. There's a lot of resources out there for Playing Like a Pirate, anti-racism education resources, all sorts of things. You can access all my past shows with you, Rachelle, and podcasts and all sorts of things that I've done. Learn more about speaking and workshopping opportunities that I have available. You can buy the book there, all sorts of stuff there. So just check it out. And I am so grateful that the two of you invited me into your space tonight. I always enjoy spending time here. And so I'm very, very grateful to you for that. So thank you.
Yeah. And Bonnie, any last words before we say good night?
Nothing. I'm so excited. I am so excited to have finally been able to meet Dawn in 2D. Right? We're getting so close. So close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's nice to now have a voice in my head when I'm reading your tweets. I'll be able to
Agreed. I agree completely. It's wonderful.
That does make a difference.
It does. It does.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and both of you. And we will see you all back here on Friday. Not exactly the same time, but around 6:30. So have a great rest of your week. Make sure you get some sleep, check out some Twitter chats, connect with some other people, and have some fun in whatever you're doing. So we'll see you the next time.
Be determined to have a good day, like Dawn said.
Yes, absolutely. Take care.
You heard it here. We'll see you.